create an arrow function. So what the front end will do is send us an email to which we want to send the friend request. And inside here, we'll create a request inside our table. And then the person who's receiving the request can fetch the request that they have and then render that on the front end. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the identity of the current user who is sending the request, who's calling this create function. So we'd say const identity, and then we'll say await ctx.auth.get user identity. And since we had that integration between clerk and convex, this works out of the box. So we need to add a check if not identity, which means there is no current logged in user calling this. We'll just say throw new convex error, and we'll pass in the message unauthorized. But if this error doesn't happen, then we'll check if args.email is equal to identity.email. This basically means that the user tried to send themselves a request. So we'll create a new error, convex error, and we'll say can't send a request to yourself. Now this identity that we have is basically the object that's returned to us by clerk. But if you remember, we did a mapping of clerk users to our own users stored inside our convex database. And whenever we're creating a request, we want to reference the convex user instead of the clerk user. So what we'll have to do is create a helper function. So we'll create another file called _utils.ts. And the _utils basically means that it won't contain any convex functions. So the front end can't really call these functions inside here directly. Over here, we'll create a function called export const get user by clerk ID export, and that will be an async function. It will take in the ctx and the clerk ID, and of course we need to add in the types for that. So we say colon, and then ctx will be either query ctx or mutation ctx, and we need to import these. So we'll go to the top and say import query ctx and also mutation ctx, and just remove this curly brace over here. And then of course this needs to be an arrow function, and then we'll define the type of clerk ID, which will just be a string. And then inside here, what we want to do is return await, take the ctx.db.query the users table, and then we use the with index function, and we use the by clerk ID index that we made. We take in the query and we say q.equal, and we want to match the clerk ID field to the clerk ID we are being passed in the function. And then since we want to get just one, we say .unique. And that's our helper function, and we'll be using this throughout our app. So we'll go back into request.ts and we'll say